Let me share my screen. So before we start, talking, thank you so much to Isaka Bangalore chapter. Thank you so much for the opportunity. It's a great pleasure, talking in this platform. And with so many people joining in on a Saturday evening, it gives me immense pleasure to talk about this topic. So what we are going to talk about is we're going to talk about the common security myths about cloud security. What is cloud security? What are the challenges that we face, right? And I work with a lot of CISOs and with varied industries, right? So how the cloud challenges actually being addressed? What are the things that actually happens on a day in day out basis from a cyber threat perspective, from a landscape perspective, from a readiness perspective? We're going to look at different factors here. And we are also going to talk about the most common myths, and we are also going to debunk few of them. And these are few things which is going to be really, really interesting. Without much delay, so let's go ahead and start. Again, thank you again for joining in on a Saturday evening. And I'm not going to take the entire 2 hours. I'm going to give you. I promise that we will try to give you some time back on Saturday evening. All right. The challenges that we hear from a lot of customers is a lot of customers, a lot of businesses push different organizations to move towards the cloud. The move was pretty sudden. It was too fast in certain cases without understanding the threat landscape. There were a lot of reasons for it. One of the common reasons that we hear from the early past, I would call it as an early past, is due to COVID. A lot of organizations move their business to from a normal infrastructure which is there on-prem to the cloud without assessing the threat landscape, right? Threat landscape was not completely analyzed, understood, and lack of security posture led to a lot of attacks, right? And when we talk about cloud, when we talk about provisioning a lot of things in the cloud, maintaining things, it's not just the same as your within your infrastructure devices. These are different, and one small change in your identity can actually give you a lot of access. So these are this is pretty common. The second thing, which the challenge as we see, is cloud misconfigurations, right? When you talk about misconfiguration and inadequate cloud control, who owns the configuration? Who is completely responsible in order to maintain all of that? Is that is that the responsibility of the cloud service provider? Is it the responsibility of the internal teams, right? That becomes a major challenge, and that's also a gray area. And this actually leads to a lot of abuse of insecure cloud credentials and access rights, right? As I mentioned earlier, giving access rights and sharing access rights are pretty common. And what happens is it goes untapped. And a lot of times these privileges and cloud credentials are actually misused without understanding the impact. Now think about this: when an identity is being misused, what happens is it's just not the application. Your entire landscape is at risk. Not just that, it doesn't end over there. It also spills over to the other parts of the network, right? And during the COVID season and even before that, a lot of companies, when you talk about DevOps, they started moving to the cloud in order to cater the global workforce and the global clientele as well, right? So when you talk about the insecure development, the DevOps process, right? A lot of containerized environment. You see that a lot of companies who do that as a business requirement, right? But how secure is it? Example, there is a lot of test environment that is getting spun up, right? And these APIs, these insecure APIs are also pretty open for testing purposes. What happens there is the administrator or the developer who forgets to curtail all of that, opens up a big black hole in the production environment. Because, example, if this test environment is actually hosted outside, and if there are loopholes by understanding what actually responds to any of my enumeration tools, what happens is the same thing can be replicated in the production environment. Right. So example, if your Docker host is not completely secure, or you getting your codes from GitHub, which is actually not completely tested, and it's been lying there for a long time, it becomes a major challenge, right? And with all of this, you also see a visibility issue. Example, who spins what and how long it has been running. Who has the capability to curtail all of that? Are these my EC2 instances? Are these my my DevOps environment, which actually spins up a lot of Dockers day in day out? Who is maintaining all of that? Without proper maintenance, without understanding without accountability, I would rather say, right? This leads to a major outbreak. The reason is, if you don't see what you have, it becomes extremely difficult to protect that, right? So visibility, is also a major key over here. And if you don't know what you need to protect, it leads to a lot of outbreaks within the environment. And these are something which we hear day in, day out. What was the cause of it, where it started? When you start digging into all of these information, you will see a lot of spillouts, right? And we hear, I'm going to give you certain examples of cloud native cyber attacks. These are things we hear from customers, right? I'm going to give you one of the example where just think about this, right? You have a Microsoft environment where you have a OAuth application. And it's a malicious OAuth application. What it means is, example, if you're looking at Microsoft, one of the choices in the configuration is you can allow anyone in the organization to access it. So what happens is, anyone with the identity can access the applications. Attackers who use malicious OAuth can actually infiltrate within the environment and create a havoc. What happens is, the malicious application, using the malicious application, you can actually go ahead and escalate your privileges, and the attacker now has access to legitimate credentials. So, this is also part of a privilege identity and account takeover as well, right? In the C scenario, in the third scenario, this is actually kind of interconnected in many places, right? So what happens is, when you establish a persistence, right from that, you can start taking over a lot of privilege identity as well, right? With that, you can enumerate a lot of your security tools, which is running within your environment, understand what are the vulnerabilities that are related to what services that are actually running, and then what happens is, you can create exclusions, within the security portfolio of the client. And what happens is, it's like an open gateway to an attack. From there on, I have seen where Jenkins was used to plan certain payloads where the credentials were actually elevated. It was more like it looked more like a legitimate login. And with that, the payload was placed. Once the payload was placed, it was very, very easy to go ahead and deploy it. So once the payload got deployed, it started enumerating not just the cloud workload, but also the on-prem infrastructure. What happened is, it created a lot of havoc. We were able to see the persistence in every single part of the network. We were able to see lateral movement. And with that, what happened is, the entire network got infected, right? And it started mutating as well. So these payloads, when it gets crafted, it becomes really interesting, right? And from there on, it started reaching out to the end users. It started, of course, the servers were also compromised. And these kind of new mechanisms, these kind of new techniques are not well known to all the security practitioners. You should be really cognizant of all these latest types of threats that are looming around, right? Looking at the, looking at different providers. So when you talk about cloud security, there are a lot of providers. You go to a lot of events, you hear a lot of messaging. It's also important to understand different vendor lingos, right? So we all attend a lot of events, we all attend a lot of conferences, we go through a lot of white papers, and there is a lot of claim that happens when, these are buzzwords I try to collate from different actually reduced. You have 8x faster investigations, 44% lower cost. But what do these lingo really mean, right? What is the underlying cloud security that is actually working on? Is there a way that actually one cloud security product can actually collate everything and provide you one platform? This is actually not possible where you collate everything, where you mix up everything, and when you provide a platform, it's like a one silver bullet. You don't have one silver bullet, right? And you also get these unified cloud security platform. What does it unify? What are the manual efforts that are behind this? CISOs find it really difficult. It becomes extremely difficult to understand the exact outcomes. Even when you understand these outcomes, does it match with my security focus? In the sense, when I talk about focus, what is my vision? Does it actually map to my vision? Does it make sure that my outcomes are mapped one-to-one? So we talk to a lot of CISOs on the same lines. And when we talk about cloud security technologies, right? So I go ahead and put it in four big containers. So I'll start from the bottom. The CWPP, right? So it's the cloud workload protection. So when you talk about cloud workload protection, it's all about ability to protect and detect and respond to cyber threats on your cloud workloads. It could be your Kubernetes, it could be your Dockers. How do I protect all of that? Second thing is your CSPM, cloud security posture management. What does it mean? How does it overlap? In the upcoming slides, I will explain you. When you talk about CSPM, it definitely helps you to identify and remediate threats on your cloud infrastructure. It's not your cloud workload, it's actually your infrastructure. The third comes your CIEM. So that is your cloud infrastructure entitlement management. Right? It helps gaining visibility of all the mapped identities and privileges within your cloud environment. On top of that, this is something we start hearing a lot. We see that across as well. That's the CNAPP. That is your cloud native application protection platform. It's actually a cloud native platform that unifies the monitoring, detection, and response capabilities, and it manages your security risk, right? And first of all, if we broadly look at these four pillars, the first thing which should come to your mind is which technology does what, and what suits my requirement, what suits my environment. It's actually a balance of people, technology, and process. The reason I say that is we are going to go through the myths of what are the different myths. The reason I call it as a balance of people, technology, and process is when you look at a process, right from the CISO, right from the top head, you can see different types of processes that are set up in order to respond to any type of security event. More than a security event, it's actually your guidelines which are actually being set. On that, you start evaluating different types of technologies. So when you start talking about technologies, what are the different technologies that should stand where in part of my network? Who does what type of technology overlaps a few things? What can I actually let go of a few things? What is my infrastructure protection? What is going to be my endpoint protection? What is going to be my cloud protection? You have multiple various things. And all the CISOs have done enough investments, and they've done the right investments. But it's also understanding, saying that, are my people equipped? in order to handle all of these things. So that there's always a skill gap. We'll talk more about that. So that's the reason I say that it's always a fine balance between people, technology, and process. All right. So what we will do now is we will start looking at different types of myths, and we will start debunking, one by one. We're going to look at 10 different myths today, and let's start looking at one by one. The first one is always my favorite. The reason I call it as my favorite is, security is responsibility of cloud service provider. Is the CSP really responsible for the security? Am I not responsible? Is the organization not responsible? It's actually not true. It's actually a joint responsibility, right? So when you look at, your physical security, it's absolutely accurate. It is your responsibility. But when you talk, IAS or SaaS, it's actually a joint responsibility, right? From the OS to application, it's actually the organization's responsibility to put proper controls in place. And if you talk about, right from your host infrastructure, on the SaaS, it's definitely the cloud service, provider's responsibility, right? So if you look at the, the matrix over here, let me get my pen here. All right. So if you look at your on-premise, everything right from your application configuration, your identity access control, application data store, everything is all yours. It's 100% your responsibility, right? When you start moving towards IaaS, right, you can see network flow control. Half is yours and half is the responsibility of the cloud service provider. And when you go furthermore, your PaaS and SaaS, we talk a lot about SaaS nowadays. Not nowadays, it's in the last 3-4 years. We talk a lot about SaaS offerings from different vendors, right? The application and configuration, it's still your responsibility. Whatever is hosted, as I mentioned before, the OS to the application is actually your responsibility, right? When you talk about the network flow control, it is actually the cloud service provider's responsibility. The physical security of the platform, the SaaS platform, is actually the cloud service provider's responsibility, right? So this is one of the first myths I wanted to debunk. What we will do is, in between, in the next, after 10 minutes, we will also pause. We will start taking few questions. Along with me, I also have Shankar. He's going to help me to take few questions today, right? So this is what I was mentioning. Organizations remain responsible for ensuring their services meet the security requirements. So when you look at the cloud security, it is definitely different from your traditional on-prem security, right? Where is the data getting stored? What are the controls that are in place when I am trying to retrieve my data? What are the services that come into play? What is the connectivity between between my network and the cloud network? What is the how do I segregate it? What data gets stored where? If my data is getting stored, and how do I make sure that that platform is safe? So all of that is a mix, and it's not that easy in order to, and you can't just replicate. I wouldn't call it as it's not easy. You can't just replicate what was there on-prem, the security controls, to go immediately over there. The reason is, about the identity access. Let's look at that in more detail, right? So when moving to the second myth, CWP can exist without a solid EDR foundation. This is also a common myth stating that, for all my on-prem assets, for all my physical assets, I need an EDR, but for my cloud, I don't need, because it's there somewhere. My security is in place. The provider takes care of everything. I don't have to worry about it. I'm not going to have any type of ransomware attack over there. I'm not going to have any type of malware attack over there. It's actually a myth, right? So when you talk about your foundation, right? EDRs typically give you a real-time threat detection, right? The most effective way to understand that is it's very, very common. If you look at any types of attacks, you see that 80% of the attacks actually start from an endpoint, right? So if that is the case, it could be your EC2 instance, or it could be your physical laptop or your server, it doesn't matter, right? How do I do a site scanning? Is site scanning once a day enough? I have a sidecar, I do a site scanning. Is it enough? It's not enough, right? The most important thing is to make sure that all your assets are being looked at in a real time. Only an EDR can actually do that, right? So when you talk about your workloads, when you talk about your, it could be your EC2 instances, these are things which actually are working all the time. And it is actually extremely important to make sure that you protect them. You have a broad platform in order to support it. I need an autonomous agent. Doesn't matter whether the workload is up or not. I just want to make sure that reporting to the console or not, I need to make sure that it is actually detecting and protecting me against threats. How do I evaluate my efficacy of the tool? Of course, you have the beautiful MITRE evaluation. You can look at what is the efficacy of the tool, so on and so forth, right? So in reality, even for your cloud workloads, you need to make sure that you have a proper control in place, and your instances are protected, right? As I mentioned, right from your Docker host, your Kubernetes host, to your EC2 instances, these are protected because that's where your applications are running. That's where your data is also hosted, right? Make sure that you are responsible for securing your data, not the CSP provider, because the data is yours, right? And the environment is yours, the application is yours. It's your responsibility. Moving on to the third one, everything required can be achieved with a CWP, right? Reality, what's the reality over there, right? Your CWP, Cloud Workload Protection, what does it do? It actually provides you real-time visibility of what is running within your workloads. So example, I have a Kubernetes environment running. In that, what am I doing? What are the things that I'm spinning up? How do I make sure that I understand what's actually running? So this is where your CSP plays a vital role, right? It's not just about your your platform. I'm talking about your workload itself, right? CWP is actually a integral part of your cloud security stack. When you look at your entire security stack, when you're looking at IaaS or SaaS model, your cloud security stack, you'll have a cloud security stack. CWP is an integral part of it, right? It does not supersede other technologies like CIEM, CSPM, data security, etc., etc. As I mentioned, your workloads are the one which is actually like a workhorse, which is doing things which you need, which you require them to do, right? Example, you're spinning up a new instance, you're spinning up a new application. How do I make sure that, the codes are safe, the application is safe, no one comes in, even if there is something that's going to happen, I have something to protect it. That's exactly where the CWP plays a vital role, right? I'm going to go to the next myth. That is the CSPM. It's about the CSPM. Now we saw the CWP. We are going to look at the CSPM. CSPM is, it's also very interesting. That's your cloud security posture management. How do I make sure my platform's posture is actually safeguarded, right? Many fear that it's just not going to be the workload. I should also look at the platform. Yes, it is right. How do I make sure I protect them? And CSPM provides a complete cloud security platform. That's actually maybe true, maybe not, right? So what can actually cloud security posture management help you? It can actually detect and respond to any type of cloud misconfigurations. As a platform, when you configure your entire platform, if there are any misconfigurations that are done, it helps you to detect and respond. It also helps you to maintain inventory best practices. When you talk about inventory best practices, I spoke about who is going to look at what is getting spun up, right? So your CSPM is definitely going to help you to give you a list of what is there. It gives you an inventory, and it helps you with the best practices as well. And of course, it is able to compare configuration against regulatory standards and your frameworks and NIST and or whatnot, right? You can also have your custom posture management. You can do a comparison there as well. It supports organization regardless whether you have a single or a multi-cloud strategy. So larger organizations have a multi-cloud strategy. CSPM, it supports both. Either it could be a single cloud strategy or a multi-cloud strategy. The fact is, if you look at the fact, CSPM actually again an integral part of the cloud security stack, but it isn't the security platform itself. What this is going to do is it's a part of a security stack. It's a part of your entire portfolio, and it is actually not your entire security platform, which means it's one of the things that you should be doing, and it's actually not a replacement for a CWP. CWP, it does. CSPM is actually no replacement for CWP. What I mean over there is the cloud workload is the one which actually, as I mentioned before, it's actually your workhorse, which is doing a lot of things, right? What is running within your cloud workload is actually the job of CWP, right? Make sure that it is safe, it is secure, to cajole the workloads, to make sure that when I say cajole, it's about making sure that your workloads are safe, they don't get impacted, they don't get infected, and your data doesn't get leaked, so on and so forth. That's where your CWP helps you. So again, as I mentioned, CSPM is no replacement for a CWP. I'm going to pause here before going to the fifth myth. Shankar, I'm going to ask you if there are any questions here. I just want to make sure that we cover it before I move ahead.
Yes, Yash. So, sorry, I didn't realize it's become so dark here. So, sorry, everybody. I'll just switch on my light. Yash, I think, thank you. Some questions regarding slides, etc., which I've shared that yes, we would be sharing these slides with the ISACA chapter leads, and I would request, Raj, Shekharji, or Narsimhan to share these presentation deck with you. Yash, there are 2 or 3 important questions which I think deserve your reply. First is, as cloud is broad, it would help to have some deep dive into IaaS, PaaS, and SSAS security from a customer vendor responsibility. I know you've anyhow covered one myth, which clearly states that, generally the tendency is that if you work with a CSP like an AWS or an Azure, you tend to, feel that, okay, now you're completely secure, the responsibility is on the CSP. But is there anything else that you want to highlight here?
Yeah, I can give you our example itself. So example, I work for a company called Central One, right? Central One, we have both SaaS and on-prem model as well. So when you look at SaaS, we are hosted. We can get hosted either on GCP or AWS. In many regions, we are in AWS as well, right? Does it mean that when I am hosting my application on a SaaS platform, is that the CSP's responsibility? It is actually not. It is my responsibility to make sure that my containers are actually safe, my data is safe, my customers' data is safe, so on and so forth. It is actually my responsibility. We maintain high standards. We publish articles there, and we also will be happy to share it with clients who actually request for it after all the legalities, right? So as a SaaS provider myself, I make sure that it is actually my responsibility. And when you talk about my environment as such, right? So the posture management is also my responsibility. Example, making sure that I follow practices, the best practices, the guidelines, the compliance requirements, to make sure that I get my own certification on all of this, and to prove it to the client, saying that how responsible we are as a provider, And that's exactly how the clients actually look at us as well, right? So, I can answer from our own perspective. That's my answer to you.
Perfect, perfect. There are two more questions, Yash. First is, especially now that we're on the CSP subject, are there any suggestions or advice on the clauses or clause that should be incorporated while signing up the contracts with CSPs? I know it's probably a legality question, but anything from your suggestion, something that you would suggest?
Yeah, it's again, there's no one silver bullet where you need to add, these clauses. It actually comes from the CISO's desk, right? CISOs, they have a lot of suggestions. I wouldn't call it a suggestion. I would rather call it as compliance requirements, because every client, every customer, every industry is different. And within the industry, you have different sets of requirements. Where should my data be? Example, what kind of data I'm storing? Which part of data is actually here in my infrastructure? Which part of data is actually outside? So it is actually the CISO's, responsibility actually to set up, the organization CISO's responsibility to set up all these clauses. And we work with a lot of them. So we can actually, help them offline and evaluate what is that. But it will be more of an guideline. But if you're looking at from an organization's perspective, it'll actually be the CISO who will be doing all of that.
Perfect. I just have one more question, which is, can you give us some examples of cloud misconfigurations detected by CSPM?
Okay. Yeah, of course. So when you talk about configuration audits, so you talk about it could be any type of audit that you do, right? So your cloud example, your infrastructure should be configured in this particular manner. You should have your policies configured in this manner. So example, even if you look at AWS, right? So when you're hosting something on AWS, I do an audit and figure out saying that these are the controls that are actually not as per my standards. It could be, whatever standard that you follow, these standards are actually, looked at. So very rudimentary example. I'm going to give you a very, very basic example. And it's going to be, very much compared to an infrastructure which is actually on-prem. If we look at AD, the reason I'm taking AD as an example, this is something which we all know, right? I shouldn't have local passwords. I shouldn't have passwords not expiring. I shouldn't have any local admin rights. I shouldn't have a broad rule. This is exactly on the cloud. I shouldn't have a broad rule which actually gives accesses across my VPCs, right? What is the control that you have in my VPC, so on and so forth. These are broader, rules, and every organization have different ways to actually curtail it. And CSPM is definitely going to help you on the posture management.
Perfect, perfect. Thank you, Yash. And I think since you've covered formats, I have a small Kahoot quiz that I prepared, which is just a fun quiz. Let me run with that. And since we have a good number of audience, I think it'll be fun. And Yash, you could take part in it as well. So these are, the quizzer and me became a little active today morning. So I've made some questions. So if I can request everybody to please, Yash, can I take control of the slides if you could just stop sharing?
Oh yeah, I'll do that. I'll stop share.
And I would
projecting more
okay.
data at infinite scale, eliminating.
Okay, I would just probably Raj Shekharji, you'll just have to give me the sharing rights. Oh, okay. Before that I do that, Yash, since we were answering questions, there's just one more question that popped up. So this is with regards to the very first myth that you covered. What would be your thoughts as for the commercial off-the-shelf, COTS is concerned? Where ideally should the accountability exist? CSP versus customer, or would it be a shared responsibility?
Great question. So to answer it short, it's actually a shared responsibility, because You cannot just say that, CSP is responsible for all of that, because as I mentioned earlier, right from your, operating system to your application level, it's actually your responsibility, right? So what happens from a CSP level, it's actually more on the infrastructure. On the second myth slide, I covered what is going to be the overlay when you talk about responsibility. I would say it's actually a shared responsibility.
So Shankarji, you can share the screen. Yeah, you can announce any goodies is for that.
Oh yes. So all the intelligent quizzers here, these are very simple questions. So anybody, I plan to give the top 3 winners something that Yash would help me. No, I'm just kidding. The top 3 winners would get something interesting. I would request all of you to log into kahoo.it, and the pin that we would be using is 1386175. Let me repeat. It's 1386175.
Proactive, intelligent, protecting more data at infinite
1386175. Yes.
Welcome to XDR.
So yes, I can see people joining in. Thank you so much.
More people, more products, more layers, more complexity, more stress. But we've reached.
Shankar, are you sure that you want me to join there?
Yeah, it will be interesting. So let's see how smart is Yash on very topics. These could be anything. So thank you so many people who are joining us. It's always good. I plan to see if we could reach at least 80, 90. I can see 49 of you already in.
More complexity, more stress. But we've reached the limits of more.
54.
Entering the age of 1.
And as I mentioned earlier, I definitely, so the top 3 winners, we definitely would have something. So I'll work with Rajji or Narsimhan. I'll reach out to you from email, the top 3 winners, and probably get your address and send you something.
More people, more products, more layers.
Thank you. It's heartening to see 70. I think the minute we reach 90, I would start the quiz. Please note that this would be in 2 rounds. So there are, if I'm not mistaken, there are 18 questions. I'll do 9 right now, and probably in another half an hour, we'll do the remaining 9.
One idea has dominated. More.
76 and counting. So I think we should reach the number soon.
Yes, I'm sure.
We've reached the limits of more.
So just for the sake of the others.
Shankar, you said 18 questions. You're going to have split it into 2, 9 now and 9 later.
Yes,
right?
9 now and 9 after you've covered, let's say, the 8th or the 9th myth. I'll probably do the remaining then.
Sure.
History of cybersecurity. One idea.
I haven't seen you join in yet, Yash.
I don't want to join.
Don't worry, we would not. I would not reveal your score, and we would not judge you here.
Autonomous.
Okay, I think. Let me start. We already have 83.
Eliminating threats as or even before they occur. Welcome.
Oh, just play on games should be okay.
In the history of cybersecurity, one idea.
Okay, so I'm just about to start. And we have the first question. In which year did India qualify for its first and only FIFA World Cup? So, if you think that we were not into football, probably you need to check again. Okay, the time is up. Excellent. So 5 of the people. Sorry, team. I've kept it as 10 seconds because I think it's important that we all in the online world have a tendency of Googling it. So 5 of you got it correct. It is 1950. Let me. How do I? Okay, wait a minute. There are too many windows here.
Right side top corner, you have the next icon here.
Yeah, sorry. So we can see that. Oh, wow. How come I can't see the scoreboard?
So none of them have got it right. So we'll have to move to the next one. We were expecting a cybersecurity question.
Oh, I was told not to keep that at all. So which of the following is Australia's capital? Very easy one, I think.
I think that's the reason, Shankar was saying that, you should join.
I changed the setting to make it 20 seconds so that more and more people can answer it. Oh, this one is easy, I hope. Excellent. So that's interesting. That is the reason I had included it. So people assume it's Sydney, but no, it is Canberra. So excellent. Let's see. We've got Chris MP on fire. Congratulations, Chris. PC Prashant, very close. So good. So let's go to the third question. Where can you see all of these symbols together? This is one of my favorite questions. Let's see if somebody can crack it. Is it on the hieroglyphic alphabet? Are these the signs that a hacker leaves generally on a compromised asset? Unilever logo or Rig Veda? Wow. Okay. So if you remember that big U in Unilever, that U has all these signs. So,
I didn't know that, Shankar. I didn't know that.
So there is a quizzer in me, Yash. So, okay. So I'm glad the 14 of you who got it correct. So let's see who is. Wow. So Kannan, Hemakumar, Saran. Excellent. So all three new people are seem to be on the leaderboard. Okay, the fourth question. Which company manufactures the most rubber tires in the world? And apologies if I've made Goodyear twice. It's not to state that Goodyear is the right answer, but is it Goodyear, Michelin, or Lego? Oh my God, only 4 of you got it right. So guys,
that's a tough one.
That's a trick question because all those small toy cars that you see from Lego all have rubber tires. So that was a trick question. Maximum tires manufactured is by Lego. It's a very common quiz question, but yes. So let's see who these 4 toppers are. Oh wow, Kanan still, Himakumar, excellent. I think we have 2 quizzers in this group, and Karam S, that's a very good lead. Okay, so I think Kannan and Hema seem to be quiz people because they knew this question. Okay, when was the movie Top Gun first released?
I know that.
Now you haven't, you're not in the. But I think even this one is an easy one because okay, the time is up. Excellent. Wow, that is encouraging. So let's see who was the first to press the buzzer. Okay.
Wow, interesting.
Wow. Yeah, Kannan and Hemakumar both are somewhere lost. But Saran, PC, Karam S, excellent. You know what? I've lost the track of questions. It's 5th. Good.
Fifth one.
Yeah.
4 more.
4 more. Okay. A group of computers. Who said I won't include techie questions? Group of computers that is networked together and used by hackers. So let's see if. Good. I think this one should be one of the easy ones, especially for this audience. Okay. Excellent. So 74 answers. Excellent. So yes, I know I'm in the right audience, but I want to understand who are the 8, the 3, and the 15 here. That'll be
I
interesting.
think one of that is me.
Okay. And let's see. Okay, so PC seems
Sharon, yeah, nice.
Then Karam and Chris MP's come back. So good. Okay. Now moving on to the 7th question. Which of the following 4 passwords is the most secure? So please check these 4 and tell us which of these 4 do you think is the most secure?
I think the first one on the left, Shankar.
Sure, Yash. Why not the last one on the right? let's not disturb them. Let them think. I hope everybody gets this one right. Oh, excellent. So yes, 44. Perfect. PC seems to be on fire. Wow, PC.
Oh, yeah.
PC, Saran, and Chris. Okay, so the penultimate question of this round. Name the origin of marathons. So I know that Bangalore is a city where lots of people run in the Cubbon Park. So let's see if you all know where marathons originated from. A very easy one, actually. If you
Shankar, I thought it was Delhi.
Yeah, sure, Yash. Why not Bangalore? Okay, this is actually an easy one because it's, if I can give a hint, the same place where the Olympics started. Let's see. Excellent. This is so heartening to see. Yes, it is Greece. So, and the last question for this round. Wow, PC.
Wow, PC. Look at PC.
And I need to, probably check on chat who PC or what the full form of PC is. But PC, well done. So the last question coming for everybody before I give it back to Yash. Name Amir Khan's character in the Oscar-nominated film Lagan. Again, an easy one.
I forgot, Shankar. I forgot.
Yeah, I think one of the good movies. And actually a very easy question again, but let's see if people get this one right. Okay, 54 got it right, which is heartening to see. And wow.
Wow.
Yes. Excellent. So with that, let me not press the next button. Instead, Yash, I'll stop sharing. I'll give it to you. But before I do that, okay, I think I answered Shushmita's question. Cool. So it's over to you, Yash. I'll keep checking on the Q&A widget if there are more questions. Once you've finished, or once we reach around 6:45, 6:50, I'll do the other leg of the quiz.
Sure. And as I promised, I'll keep it short.
Perfect. Thank you.
Let me share my screen. We left right here.
Yes.
Okay. Let's go to the next myth. That's the myth number 5. CSPM is XDR, but for the cloud, right? So if we look at the facts over here, again, CSPM is no replacement for CWP, doesn't help you to gain visibility of what is running within your workload, right? So when you talk about XDR as a platform, it's actually not a separate solution or a product as such. It actually helps you to enable data ingestion, right? And typically leading XDR platform will actually incorporate CSPM capabilities, which will actually help to empower organizations to simplify the technology stack, right? So when you look at CSPM, the reality, it helps you to again maintain inventory best practices, support organization regardless whether they have single or multi-cloud. Again, when you talk about regulatory standards, maintaining and doing a compliance check against any type of regulatory standards helps you to detect and respond cloud misconfigurations. If you look at the fact, and if you look at the reality, you will be able to compare saying that CSPM is XDR, but for the cloud, that's a common myth, right? Moving on to the sixth one, right? CSPM and CWP combined is all I will need to secure my cloud instance. Is that what is the reality? Is it, if I combine both of that, is my cloud instance completely safe? Right. So when you look at CSPM, again, we all know what is CSPM, CWP. It is, again, provides real-time visibility to what's running within your cloud workload. It helps you to respond to cyber threats, so on and so forth. The fact, right? Organizations still need the ability to manage cloud identity and entitlements. So when you talk about cloud identity itself, it's a vast topic, right? You still need the ability to manage it. So which means that if you just have CSPM and CWP, it's not all what is required. You still need a few more. And of course, you're securing your cloud data, your network, your applications, all of that have a separate process altogether, right? So when you say that, I hear a lot saying that I have CSPM, I don't need CWP. I have a CSPM, so I get to know that all my workloads are safe. No, CSPM doesn't look into CWP. And if you have CSPM and CWP, is that what is required to protect my cloud infra? No, you still have to look at all of the parts as well. And this is actually extremely interesting when you talk to a lot of CISOs, when you talk to a lot of security practitioners, right? So when you talk to security practitioners per se, who are well versed, in the cloud infra, they'll give you a very different perspective. And what are the different things that actually gets involved in securing the entire platform? So example, as I gave you an example, when the data is moving across your infra and to the cloud, what are the different factors that I'll have to look at? So will the CSPM cover everything? Who takes care of my VPC configuration? Who takes care of noticing what is passing down within my cloud data and network? What is my application doing? So on and so forth. It becomes extremely complex. So when you talk to the gurus, they'll give a very, very, very different perspective, right? This is interesting. The CNAPP, right? CNAPP, if you actually look at CNAPP, we spoke about Cloud Native Application Protection Platform. So when you look at a CNAPP, the CNAPP is a silver bullet that can cover all of my cloud security needs, right? So that is, that's actually not completely true. So when you look at CNAPP, it is going to, in theory, it is going to consolidate your CSPM, your CWP, and CIEM capability. What we will do is, after all of these myths, I will also show you each and every platform, what this is going to do, what is the use of it, so on and so forth, so that we don't get confused. So if you look at the facts published by Gartner as well, you can see what is that. So you need a convergence of cloud security capabilities. Not all CNAPP solutions are equal. And of course, when I spoke about the people, process, and technology, you should make a decision saying that what serves my purpose, what aligns with my security goals, right? And whether whether a particular solution is going to give the best of the world of both my platform, my CWP, is it going to consolidate everything? It is going to give you a single pane of glass, or it becomes a single glass of pain. So it becomes extremely important. Don't take a rushed decision. Look at the use cases, look at the capabilities. And when you look at CNAPP, it's again not just a silver bullet. You have to make sure that you understand the verbatim of the vendor and understand what are the exact capabilities of it. Is there any ifs and buts with it? Is there something which is actually missing? So understand all of that. Will it talk to everything? Will it be able to give you one single pane of glass, looking at all the insights, giving you all the insights? Understand all of that. Moving on to the eighth one. data and network security is handled by the cloud service provider. Shankar, what do you think about this? I'm going to ask you this question. So is it a myth or is that a fact?
Okay, so data network security is handled by the cloud service provider. Honestly, I think it's a big myth. You give your cloud loads to a CSP, and the general tendency is that you are rest assured. And these CSPs becoming so big, you have a tendency that they have their own internal security governance mechanism. So you tend to kind of rest assured that everything's been taken care of.
Absolutely, you're bang on. Shankar, if you look at the facts, your data is your responsibility. Your network is your responsibility, right? You cannot rely upon someone saying that, they are responsible. They will take care of my thing. So it is actually your responsibility. It's not just your data. It is not just, your own data. It is also your customers' data. Look from a CIA trials perspective. So, which means that it is, all of these pillars, you have to make sure that you satisfy all of them. You take responsibility of mapping each and every techniques, each and every, compliance standards, each and every policies that you put in place. Organizations are fully responsible for data security or for IaaS, cloud workloads, and they're jointly responsible for PaaS, the platform as a service. Organizations are jointly responsible for network security using IaaS cloud workloads, right? So it's a joint responsibility. It's just not the CSP's responsibility. Moving on to the 9th one, what we will do, Shankar, is we will finish the 9th and 10th one, and I'll take, and then we will go with the Kahoot, right? So going on to the 9th one, this is something extremely interesting. Automated response means loss of control. When you talk about, automation, and when you talk about security operation from a security operations perspective, there's always too much work. There's always a skill shortage when you talk about, security ops, right? How many of us find it difficult to find the right fit to manage, security operations, the right skill set, right? We don't often find relevant skill sets, and it's definitely early in the career as well, right? So when you look at the threat landscape, it's always growing, it's always increasing. Automation becomes extremely important, right? Automation helps in responding to threats much, much, much faster. It helps us to automate repetitive work. So when you talk about repetitive work, I'll give you a very simple perspective compared to a MITRE technique. So when you look at, when you look at privilege escalation, you see that day in, day out, right? It's required. And if you see that, when there is a privilege escalation happening, probably you get an SIM alert saying that someone is trying to escalate my privilege. There is always a repetitive work saying that what is actually happening, right? With automation, you can actually reduce a lot of things. AI plays a vital role over there, right? So when you talk about, automation between humans and, with AI, right? So if I start automating certain aspect, I lose control on certain things. What is happening in my environment? That's actually not true, right? So when you look at the human element and the AI element, both have, very, very, very different. I wouldn't call it as skill sets. I would call it as intelligence, right? The the thing which human brings in. So when you talk about automation, it's not like taking the human intelligence out. It's about making sure that you marry, both of, best of both worlds. A security analyst who is within the environment can actually understand the context. He has the complete network intelligence, the organization insights. They go really, really deep in analyzing few things. And when you look at AI, it is great at parsing a lot of data, right? And in order to reach a verdict, to automate workflows, so on and so forth, it becomes extremely important. That's the reason I said that combining both of them gives you the best of best results, right? So when you look at automated response versus remediation, keep the human in the loop to gain confidence. So which means that not everything can be automated. You definitely need a human interface over there. The reason is, with the human intelligence, the kind of insights what they bring in, AI can never bring it in the near future, right? And when you look at learn from prior manual actions to guide prescription, is like, what have I learned from my past? So when you look at how I have handled few of my security, just as a security incident perspective, what are the prescription that I have in place? How do I guide it? Some tasks can be safely automated. For example, your threat intelligence, your ingestion and enrichment, user authentication, challenge and response. This is something very, very, very common, right? Consider type of cloud account operation. So example, if you automate all of these things, the human element can actually spend a lot of time in, example, doing a threat hunt within the network, or probably build in a modernizing the security stack. These are important activities which actually the human element can actually start doing. So when I call it as human element, the reason is it becomes extremely important where to touch and do all of these things. AI can't do all of that. It can't understand and modernize your security stack. It is you who will be taking this, right? And when you look at one-click actions, this is where the AI comes into place. Block IOCs if I have IOCs, or if I have to deprovision user credentials, or isolate a machine. I don't have to wait for the human to go ahead and do all of the dive in or dig in, right? The AI takes milliseconds in order to detect all of that, isolate devices if there is a threat that is involved, roll back malicious activity, return the container image. This is where the automation plays a vital role, right?
Can I
The
ask
last
a question?
we are going to talk about. Shankar, you had something?
Yeah, I just had I'm not a techie geek like you, Yash, but I had a question which is to everybody, please don't consider it as if it's a planted question, but checking with you, Yash, when you work with prospects, or when you meet with customers, do you still feel that many of the customers are relying on those legacy signature based solutions or systems, wherein you're waiting for the systems to get updated rather than something which is automated? So or do you see a trend wherein people are moving towards an automated response kind of a mechanism, where the dependency on signature or cloud giving you an executable file that you download and update, is that happening, or where do you see we are currently?
Great question. So if you asked me this question 1.5, 2 years ago, I will still say that a lot of customers are still looking at traditional solutions. So now there is already a way of understanding, there is a huge adoption, right? So customers have already started looking at automated ways, autonomous ways where, they even can do a lot of stuff. So this is in terms of endpoint, right? In terms when I talk about endpoint, it's just not your laptops. And when I talk about endpoint, right from your workloads, your servers, your laptops, workstations, everything is a endpoint, right? So there's a lot of adoption that is happening cross market. I see an upward trend, but there are certain segments in the network which still depends on a traditional solution. These traditional solutions are very, very difficult in order to detect the latest type of threats, right? So when you talk about latest threats, LOTL attacks, and if you look at the amount of mutations, what happened, a very rudimentary example or a very relevant example is logbit. When you talk about logbit, the way it actually propagates with the network, when does a lateral movement and it still tries to mutate, your traditional solutions doesn't stand a chance to detect it. So there is an adoption that is happening, but I still see certain pockets where the adoption is still slow.
And is it a myth, or is it would it be true to assume that only the large enterprises are the favorite targets, or would you say even the smaller ones, even the SMB sector, the commercial sector, even they are equally vulnerable? Or Is it a myth that only the big companies generally get attacked and the smaller ones are kind of spared? Would that be? I know it's a very funny question, but I thought it popped up, so I'm taking the liberty of asking you.
Absolutely. So when you look at attacks, right, these are absolutely vendor industry agnostic. Doesn't matter if you're small, big, large, whatever it is. Doesn't matter which market segment you belong to. Doesn't matter which customer segment that you cater to. It's not about will I get attacked. It's about when will I get attacked. So it's in that manner. So day in, day out, I handle a lot of threat research, work with a lot of threat researchers. I look at a lot of I do a lot of threat hunting as well. So it's extremely interesting to see that how these payloads are going across different segments. So to answer it short, doesn't matter small, medium, large, XL, double XL, doesn't matter at all. It's agnostic.
Perfect. Thank you. Please carry on, Yash.
Yeah. So looking at the last myth, that is more data yields better detection. Is this a myth? This is a very common myth, I would rather call it. The reason is this is not something new to us, right? So when you talk about SIEMs, how many of us use SIEMs as SIEM, and how many of us use SIEM just as a log collection part, right? So when you talk about more data, which means that you get data from so many places, right? So does it yield in better detection? The answer is actually no. The reason is when you have multiple data yields, right? Is that data lake and data swarms, are these giving in, are these ingesting structured logs, unstructured logs? What is it giving out? What is the what is that I can consume, right? Data ingestion is extremely hard, because when you look at DB schemas, this is how the data is being stored, right? So should I normalize it? Should I keep it in the native format? How many parser formats that I should be looking at? So when I talk about parser formats, it's about normalizing data, right? I get data from so many places. So when you talk about so many places, it could be a physical, devices. It could be, when I talk about physical devices, right, from your firewalls, your network devices, your security devices, your servers, your cloud workloads, on-prem, cloud. Where should I maintain it? Should I maintain a hybrid thing? So it is extremely difficult. It is extremely expensive as well. Consumption-based prices forces poor decisions. What I mean is, I meet a lot of clients. I work with a lot of IR responders, incident responders. Most common thing, most basic question they ask is, what are your log sources? From where all you actually store data, right? Am I able to fetch in data from all of these places? The answer is no, for a very simple fact that consumption-based data is extremely expensive, and not from everywhere the data is being sent and stored. That's this thing. I'm going to pause here, Shankar. I'm going to see if there are any questions. We can go with the Kahoot now, or I will actually do a quick callback of the security stack which we spoke about, and then go for the Kahoot. What would you suggest, Shankar?
I would just I think there are no questions right now, so a big call out to everybody, participants, please please do ask your questions. This is as we said earlier, it's more of a platform where you can ask anything. Like I asked those real dumb questions to Yash, which I keep doing that. Please, anything that you have in your mind, use the Q&A widget. Please check with us. It's an industry forum. We definitely would like to answer all your questions. And Yash, I think why don't you finish, and then
Yes.
I'll do the Kahoot probably towards the end.
I'll just go with one more slide. It's going to be a callback on all of the things that we actually saw, and then I will pause. We can do a Kahoot, and then there are a couple of more slides for me to cover.
Okay.
All right. Going ahead, so this is the security stack that we spoke about, different names, CIEM, CSPM, CWP, application security, so on and so forth. To simplify it, I just wanted to build in all of these pillars and show you, what all we have covered, what is the security stack. We also covered a lot of myths, 10 different myths. So if you look at CSPM and ASM, it actually discovers real-time all of your assets running in the cloud, regardless of CSP or the location. Cloud monitoring, that is your CWP, it gives you real-time visibility within all of your cloud workloads. Extremely important. Who are a part of your, cloud, approach, right? It's a cloud security approach. So again, when you talk about workloads, this is where your data is. It's extremely important to secure them. Cloud assessment, your CIEM and CSPM falls there. That does your cloud assessment. It assesses your cloud resources and workloads against the best practices. It could be your your compliance, whatever compliance you follow. It could be custom made, or it could be a ready-made compliance which is over there. Cloud protection, that CWP comes under cloud protection, real-time automated protection against malicious and suspicious events, and policy enforcement. CWP is extremely important. So when you look at cloud monitoring and cloud protection, CWP covers both of them. Network security, I don't have to talk about it. It's pretty much explainable. Application security is, again, how do I integrate security as early as possible in my development lifecycle, and what are my deployment plans? So this is exactly what we spoke about, and we covered all of the myths on these lines, right? So now you'll have a clearer understanding what are these myths and so on and so forth. What we're going to do now is I'm going to pause. If you want to take a screenshot, I can take a screenshot of this. It gives you a clarity on what category does these platforms fall under, right? Shankar, I'm going to pass it back to you now, and then we have a couple of more slides, and we'll complete the session for today.
And I love this slide, Yash. I think it's a good summary, especially when you cover the particular security stack and where each of the CWPs, etc. lie in. I think it's a very good slide. Well done. And
let me stop my share.
Perfect. And let me start my share. Okay, share my screen.
So it's going to be the 9 more questions, right? Kahoot.
Yeah.
Yes, the PCs, leading PCs on fire.
Guys, let's see if PC is no longer on fire. So let's Paul, Roy, Chris, MP. I don't know who PC. So please don't get me wrong. It's in the sportsman spirit. Let's see if the other folks can challenge you. So let's see. Let's go on to the next question. So if you are, just to remind you, kahoot.it. And I know somebody reached out to me on the chat saying that midway of the quiz he lost his control. So Prashant, if I remember your name correctly, please do log in again. The pin is 1386175. Okay, so the next question on your screen now. Who's the only Indian cricketer to have a dismissal named after him? Again, a very, very common quiz question, but a very interesting one. There is somebody, and on his name is a dismissal. Okay, let's see. Excellent. So we have 28 people who knew that Vinu Mankad, on his name, a dismissal has been done. So let's see how the leaderboard looks like. Oh, wow.
Wow.
Wow, Roy seems to be a good climber. The PC seems to be on top. Okay, the next question coming up on your screen. The 11th question is, which of these following people was originally known as Inqilab Srivastava? Again, a very good question. The quizzers would know it.
I'm no quizzer.
This one's a very interesting one, Yash. Let's see. Okay, it was Amitabh Bachchan, guys. His Inkilab Shrivastava was his name. Okay, so let's see. PC.
Oh, wow.
Wow, PC, if you don't mind, not now, but we would love to, if you could uncover yourself and tell us who you are. This is really good to see. PC, Saran, Vivek, good going, guys. We still have 7 questions, so to all the others, you never know. You could change things in the next question onwards. Which of these authors was not born in India? Please note, who amongst these authors was not born in India? Oh, wow. Okay, only 5 of you got it right. So it was not George Orwell. All of the others were born in India. Okay. Wow. Okay. This guy PC is super smart. PC, good going, buddy. Vivek, Saran, Karam S. Good to see Karam again climbing in. Shashadri is the highest climber, so I'm sure he's she's just about to get there. Next question, 13th one on your. Oh, this one's one of my favorite. So Gary Gilmore was a notorious murderer, committed 2 gruesome crimes. Okay. He was about to get executed by the firing squad, and he uttered these 3 words, which became, I think it was Dan who took those 3 words and made those 3 words into a legend. Let's see if you guys know about it. Okay, very good. So just do it. So if you haven't read about Gary Gilmore, please do. Utah-based guy, did 2 gruesome murders. And when he was just about to be taken in, he said, guys, let's not wait. Let's just do it. So that became the inspiration for Nike brand campaign.
So it looks like you're a murder mystery reader.
I actually do read a lot. So if you look at my Kindle, there are all those gory murder mysteries. Okay, so let's see how the leaderboard is. Wow. PC, Vivek, Chris, Karam S, Saran.
Shankar, hope you're not PC there.
I can't be, buddy. I'm sharing my screen. And I'm not playing from a different window. But yeah, good to see that there's somebody who's a quizzer amongst us. Name the theme song of the movie Frozen. All of you who've got small daughters, I'm sure, Yash, you would know this. Okay. This one, the easy one, Hakuna Matata, Circle of Life, A Whole New World, Let It Go. So which one was the theme song of the movie Frozen?
I'm sure people must be calling the sons and daughters now.
I should have made it. Excellent. So 26 of you got it right. It was
Let It Go.
Yeah. Okay. For this.
Wow.
PC, Vivek, Karam S. Shanu was the highest climber. Yes. So this was one of the.
Look at Karam S.
Oh, yeah. Right there. Okay. So the next question. Which F1 team does?
Yay.
Oh, sorry. One question from our side, but not a techie question. But yeah, I'm sure this Yash knows.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
We are associated with one F1 team, guys, and we are so proud of that. Let's
Absolutely.
you guys know about it.
I love that car.
I love the color as well. Yes. Okay. Wonderful. Yes, we are associated with Aston Martin, so is Cognizant and some other brands. So 26 of you got it right. Let's see the leaderboard. Aha! Vivek is a new climber. So Vivek, PC, Karam S. Nice. Amit is back with an answer streak of 3. Excellent going. So we still have 3 questions. Let's see. Question number 16th. John Lennon, Paul McCartney, Ringo Starr. So I hope this one's a real easy one for all the music lovers out there. Who is the 4th one in the group?
I was listening to them in the morning.
Oh, wonderful. I think this one would be a real easy one. So yes, it is indeed George Harrison. I wonder the 10, 4, 20, 33 people are probably not music lovers. Okay, Vivek's the new climber. PC, you can still, claim your number one slot. But yes, Vivek, good to see you. And Amit, Chris, Amit, excellent. SGP is also doing good. 2 more questions. The penultimate one on the screen now. Which bones are babies born without? Okay, very interesting one. If you remember when you had a small little one, or if you're about to have one, or whenever you have one, or if you've seen your nieces, nephews, babies are born without kneecaps. Yes, 35 of you got it right. And let's see the leaderboard. Wow, Vivek's another quizzer with us. Quiz Vivek, PC, Karam. Excellent. Satya's back. So the last question, gentlemen and ladies, coming on your screen now. Which popular spirit is distilled from the cactus tree?
I know that.
This is easy one coming on the screen to end the quiz. So let's see. Actually, this one's the easy one. Let's see. Oh, yes, you're right. So we are interesting bunch of people here. It is tequila indeed. And now the leaderboard, actually now the 3 positions would come in. So let's see. The podium number 3 slot goes to Chris MP. Congratulations.
Yay.
Second is PC. Congrats. And it's Vivek, right?
Yeah.
Awesome, guys. I'm just taking a screenshot. I'll work with Rajji and Narsimhan and reach out to you, Vivek, Chris, and PC. And thank you so much. So with that, let me stop sharing. Thank you. As the quiz masters say, it was good to do this quiz. Back to you, Yash, so that you could, complete your slide deck, and then we'll give it back to Narsimhan sir and Raj.
Yeah, I'm not going to take more than a couple of more minutes. So it's already, I think it's 7 p.m. I can see the watch over here, 6:56 to be.
I have a question to ask you as well, Yash, if I can do that.
Oh yeah, please go ahead.
Okay, so we've got a question from Manish. From an audit perspective, how should an auditor prepare himself or herself?
Okay, it's a very vast and deep question. So when you talk about how should an auditor prepare himself, is one is what is going to be the landscape that the auditor is going to look at, right? So one, from an entire platform perspective, or going deep dive 2, 3 levels deeper, will the auditor also be looking at how the endpoints in the cloud world is also looked at. So generally, when you look at auditors, they are well versed in looking at security, portfolios or security rules and policies, on the ground, right? So when you talk about laptops, desktops, and so on and so forth. But when you look at the security posture on your cloud workloads, do the auditors have a framework already? Do the auditors have a framework for the entire platform? That's something which you should also be looking at, that you should also be covering. And I can see that many of them have started doing it as practitioners. There are a few new things that are getting included. I saw that, from different CISOs, where they started asking me questions saying that, does it do that? And, how do I position myself? How do I answer these questions, so on and so forth? Very, very interesting question.
I have another one. This is for customers who operate in highly regulated landscapes. Are there any key best practices you would suggest for consideration, not just during the initial cloud adoption deployment phase, which quite seems to be a norm, but from an ongoing operational standpoint in a sustained manner?
Yeah, great question. This is where, the regular interval, when you talk about intervals, it's nowadays compliance is almost real time. I would never call it as 3 months, 6 months, 1 year activity, or, an activity which is done only during the deployments, right? So this is an ongoing activity. And when you look at we're talking on the cloud topic. So when you look at cloud monitoring your your CWP, your workloads, right? So using a CWP to continuously monitoring your posture, your security compliance is extremely important. So I would rather say it should actually be an ongoing, almost real time thing, because these cloud workloads, they don't live a long time, right? So we just need to make sure that we look into all of these. We take into consideration the security posture, and we do it in almost in a real time. When we say we, it's actually the I'm talking about the practitioners. So we should be looking from that perspective, and that's going to be my answer.
Thank you, Yash. I think please carry on.
Yeah. So a couple of more slides, as I mentioned. So we're just going to talk about quickly on the platform. I'm not going to dive in deep into that. We spoke about data ingestion. We spoke about the cloud monitoring, so on and so forth. We also spoke about something on detection response and so on and so forth. I'm quickly going to look into my own platform. This is on the central one. So when you look at an XDR, I typically boil down an XDR into three different pillars. So when you look at central one, we cover three most important things. That's your endpoint, cloud, and your identity. So endpoint means typically everything, right from your servers, your endpoint, laptops, desktops, whatever it is, your workstation, whatever you call it, mobile, whatever it is, right? Cloud, of course, your CSP plays a vital role. We make sure that your CWP using our cloud workload protection. You make sure that your workloads are pretty much safe. Identity is an important piece. The reason I speak about identity, forget about my brand over there. In every ransomware attack I dive into, when I do a lot of hunting, most of the time your threads, your identity is actually being stolen or misused. So we spoke about one of the myths there when we spoke about the identity piece as well, right? So when your credentials are being shared, or when your credentials are being mined, right, it becomes extremely difficult to identify whether it's a legitimate login or whether it's an illegitimate login. That's where your identity piece comes into picture. There are different layers of identity. I'm not going to talk about the product at all, because I don't think we are here to talk about my product. It's about we're just broadly talking about the pillars over here. And when you look at the XDR, more of the outcomes, I'm just going to talk about the outcomes. So how do I make sure that my cyber maturity is actually met in every single level? How do I understand whether the solution are actually tailor-made for me? When you look at XDR, I mentioned about data ingestion. So it's extremely important that you look at data ingestion per se. How do I make sure that I scale these things across different OSs, so on and so forth? My three motives here is from a central one perspective is see, protect, and resolve across all attack surfaces. As I mentioned, endpoint, cloud, identity, doesn't matter. We have a lot of third-party data ingestion, log data ingestion, structured, unstructured logs. We can ingest anything and everything, right? And of course, these are something which I'm again not going to dive in. Customers rate us number one. We have the best CSAT. Forget about the Gartner CSAT. I'm talking about how our customers use us, how do they rate us when they're using our solution. Gartner Peer Insights, we are the highest rated, and we are named as a leader. From a technology perspective, what I will be looking at is, one is the solution cloud workload ready. Second is how easy is it to deploy, and how is that it scores in my Gartner and in my MITRE. So with this, I'm going to stop. Thank you so much for joining in. As I mentioned earlier, I'm going to give back some time. Rajshekhar sir, Narasimhan sir, I'm going to hand it over to you. I'm going to stop right now.
Thank you so much. I think it was indeed a wonderful session, a lot of interesting insights, and I think many of the myths, I'm sure people would have found it quite interesting, because even all of us tend to get to presume that, at least the basic thing, hey, this is the cloud responsibility. Why the hell am I doing it, right? So I think that was very rightly brought in by Yashasvi, and thank you so much for accommodating our request despite that last minute challenge. And of course, to the quiz master, I think you brought in a different perspective. I am just getting a couple of feedback points on that as well. Thank you so much for bringing in an offbeat discussion in between.
Always a pleasure, sir. There's a quizzer in me. And in school days, I used to be really good in quizzing, but yeah, I've lost the trick. But yeah, some of those questions were still ones that I got from my school days. But yeah,
very nice, very nice.
That's the opportunity.
Glad to be here. If there is any more Q&A for a couple of minutes, we will take it. Otherwise, you can see the feedback here, which you can either scan it or you can go visit the Menti. Just enter the QR code, or others, beg your pardon, you can enter your ID, and if you can give your feedback, you can give your thoughts and inputs, so that we could make better use of this, improvise, add more content. And not to forget, in case you have speakers, you have people or participants whom you wish to nominate and say, hey, why don't you come and speak up? ISACA Bangalore chapter is always open for that. And also, just to give a heads up, I hope you have renewed your ISACA annual membership fee. December was the cutoff date, but just in case you're missed out, I think because of the holiday season, etc., they have just given some extension. So you could visit the ISACA website where we have the details are available. And I think until Jan or until Feb, you are permitted. So that's another interesting thing. So in case you have missed it out, you still have time. So please go ahead and get your registrations and renewals done. Raj, over to you in case you want to give any other announcements before we wrap up. And thank you so much for Yashasvi as well as Shankar for sharing wonderful thoughts. If it is possible, you can share this PPT with us, and we would, of course, members, we will be sharing it. And as I said, the session would in which case be recorded and posted onto the the YouTube platform of our chapter, probably in a few days from now. Thank you so much.
Thank you. From my side, the session was extremely engaging and collaborative. I think Kahoot, when it is a non-techie, it's a fantastic one. I think Shankarji engaged most of our participants, and the amount of information conveyed for the last 1 month was immense, and all of the related to our work on the cloud environment. So thank you, the fantastic session.
Thank you so much, sir. Pleasure.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Narasimhan. Thank you to everybody who joined us today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for dedicating your time over the weekend. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, folks. Have a great weekend ahead and the rest of the week. See ya.
Thank you.